what I see. I see this culture rotting from within, okay, and disemboweling itself, literally. Now, I have an overview of why we're having these problems, right? And it comes from the fact that I'm the product of an immigrant family. All four of my grandparents and my mother were born in Italy. So I remember from my earliest years in this factory town in upstate New York, where my relatives came to work in the shoe factory. I can remember still, okay, the life of the agrarian era, okay, which was for most of human history, okay, the agrarian era, where there was the world of men and the world of women, and the sexes had very little to do with each other. Each had power and status in its own realm. Right? And they laughed at each other, in essence. Okay? Yeah. The women had enormous power. In fact, the old women ruled, not the young, beautiful women like today. Okay? But the older you were, the more you had control over everyone, including the mating and marriage. There were no doctors, so you had the old women were like midwives and knew all the ins and outs of this inherited knowledge about pregnancy and all these other things. Right? I can remember this and the joy that women had with each other all day long, okay, cooking with each other, companions to each other, talking, conversing. My mother remembered as a small child in Italy, when it was time to do the laundry, they would take the laundry up the hill to the fountain, Il Sorgo, okay, and do it by hand. They would sing, they would picnic, and so on, all right? And we get a glimpse of that in the Odyssey, when Odysseus is thrown up naked on the shores of Phaeacia, all right? And he hears the sound of women, young women laughing and singing, and it's Nausicaa, the princess, bringing the women to do the laundry. Okay, it's exactly the same thing, right? So there was each gender had its own hierarchy, its own values, its own way of talking, and the sexes rarely intersected. Like I can remember in childhood, on a holiday, typical, it could be a Christmas, it could be a Thanksgiving, whatever, the women would be cooking all day long, everyone would sit down to eat, okay, and then after that, okay, the women would retire en masse to the kitchen, and the men would go, I would look through the window and see all the men would be all outside, usually gather around the car, okay, at a time when cars didn't work as well as they do today, with the hood up, okay, and the men would be standing with their hands on their hips like that, everyone's staring at the engine, okay, and I went, that's how I learned, okay, men were refreshing themselves by studying something technical and mechanical after being with the women, okay, during the dinner, okay, and so all of these problems of today are the direct consequence of women's emancipation and freedom from housework, thanks to capitalism, okay, which made it possible for women to have jobs outside the home for the very first time in the 19th century, no longer to be dependent on husband or father or brother, right? And so this great thing that's happened to us, that allowing us to be totally self-supporting, independent agents, has produced all this animosity between men and women, because the women feel unhappy. Women today, wherever I go, whether it's Italy or Brazil or England or America, okay, or Toronto, okay, the upper middle class professional women are unhappy, miserable. And they don't know why they're unhappy. They want to blame it on men, okay? The men must change. Men must become more like women. No, that is the wrong way to go, okay? It's when men are men, okay, and understand themselves as men, are secure as men, then you're going to be happier.
Yeah, well, there's nothing more dangerous than a weak man.
Yeah, absolutely, okay, and especially all these quislings, okay, spouting feminist rhetoric. When I hear that, okay, it makes me sick. But here's the point. Men and women have never worked side by side, ever. Maybe on the farms, okay, when you were like, maybe one person's in the potato field, the other one's over here in the doing tomatoes or whatever, okay? You had families working side by side, exhausted with each other, no time to have any clash of this. It was a collaborative effort on farms and so on. Never in all of human history have men and women been working side by side. And women are now, the pressure about Silicon Valley, they're also sexist. Oh, they don't allow women in and so on. The men are being men in Silicon Valley, all right, and so on. And
especially the engineers.
And the women are demanding that, oh, this is terrible, you're being sexist. Maybe the sexes, okay, have their own particular form of rhetoric, their own particular form of, of identity, okay. Maybe, okay, we need to re-examine, okay, this business about, maybe we have to perhaps accept some degree of tension and conflict between the sexes, okay, in a work environment. I don't mean harassment. I'm talking about women feeling disrespected, how somehow their opinions when they express them, okay, are not taken seriously. Or even Hillary Clinton is complaining, oh, when a woman writes something online, she's attacked immediately, and so on. Well, everyone's attacked online. What are you talking about? The world is tough. The world is competitive, okay? Identity is honed, okay, by conflict. The idea that there should be no conflict, that we have to be in this bath, okay, of approbation,
Yes.
and you know, which is
Well,
just
that's